Good morning on this Sunday morning and welcome to Indiana Insiders. We have a full staff this morning. Republican Jennifer Hollowell, Democrat Robin Winston, and University of Indianapolis political science professor Dr. Laura Wilson. Welcome to all of you. How about those Boilers, huh?
Tremendous game.
That was a tremendous, the Purdue University, at least today. Huh? Did we see a shift this week? President Trump washes his hands over the possibility of losing the House of Representatives, saying that's just not his responsibility. Then late in the day on Thursday, he sends out a tweet saying he's actually for pre-existing conditions. Is this a change 3 weeks out of the election? Then we couldn't help but notice Republican U.S. Senate candidate Mike Braun was also talking about pre-existing conditions. Have Republicans started to pick up on a trend, as Mike Braun picked up on a trend, at least here in Indiana? We caught up with both men this week.
Healthcare costs. We've all grappled with that. For employers, for employees, it just never seems to be good news.
This is about health care. I was the deciding vote to protect health care, to protect coverage for pre-existing conditions.
And 10 years ago, crafted a plan that's never had a premium increase in now 10 years and has covered pre-existing conditions and no cap on coverage.
Mike Braun today is supporting a lawsuit that would take away coverage for pre-existing conditions. And so things like that are the crucial issues here. I'll fight for your health care. Mike Braun is fighting to take it away.
If we don't get new blood in D.C., people that have done things in the real world expect more of the same.
You know, for me, a great, great day is when a Hoosier family can get health care, or a dad or mom gets a better job. That's when I look and go, boy, that's a success.
Well, Robin Winston, I'll let you start because Democrats have been harping on this health care issue for quite a while. You feel like is now getting attention here?
Well, clearly it is. The president's reversed his course. Braun's now talking about it. Joe Donnelly's been on this. Judge people by their actions, not by their words. The actions are that Joe Donnelly cast his vote that mattered. He cast the vote that made a big difference on health care, on affordable health care. He's not run away from it. He's not ducked it. He stayed on it. Think about the game last night at Purdue. The kid sitting up there that they focused on. Pre-existing condition. If he were to go to the hospital today under our plan, he would get coverage. If he would go to the hospital today under their plan, he would not get coverage. That's what this election is all about, is kitchen table issues.
So the Democrats have been pushing this narrative across the country for weeks now. And the bottom line is you want to look at actions. Mike Braun has covered pre-existing conditions for employees at his company over all this time. He has committed that he won't support anything that doesn't cover pre-existing conditions. And if you want to talk about deciding votes, Joe Donnelly was the deciding vote for Obamacare. He's the one that gave us this horrible system that we're still trying to fix to make it work for people because there are skyrocketing premiums. There are incredible health care costs. Health care is something that everyone knows we have to deal with, but it's how we get there that's important, and that's why we need to elect Mike Braun to the U.S. Senate.
Dr. Laura, it seemed like for a while it was going to be Kavanaugh, it was going to be all these other issues, and now all of a sudden we see this one simmering to the top.
Yeah, what I think is important here is that healthcare has been an issue for years. It's a salient issue. It's obviously a problem in our country, regardless of which way you're looking at it. And the fact of the matter is it's not something as simple as Kavanaugh confirmed to the Supreme Court, we're done with that. Or immigration, which influences some states more than others, like here in Indiana. But healthcare is something across the board that our country has really struggled with. And I think you see it really simmering to the top in this election.
I must admit one thing, watching those commercials, you guys, whoa, they're really going after each other, Jen.
There's some crazy commercials right now, especially Joe Donnelly's.
Not all of them local.
The two ads that Joe Donnelly started this week are just absurd. I mean, they look like he's running in a Republican primary. And he's pretending that he's a Republican, essentially. But the bottom line is, when it comes time to vote on close votes, when we really need his vote, when we need him to stand up for Hoosier values, he votes with the Democrats. He voted against the tax cuts. He voted against the tax cuts. He was the deciding vote on Obamacare. And that is what people need to remember. He voted against Brett Kavanaugh. So at the end of the day, when we really need his vote, he's voting with Democrats. That's the hat that he chooses when times are tough.
I don't want to leave health care alone. If you work for Mike Braun, you had a $10,000 deductible. Now, if you've ever filled out your tax form, you know how many medical costs you had to have to get to a $10,000 deductible before his health care kicked in. That's a lot of money, Kevin, when you're only making $20,000 or $30,000 a year working for him. So let's not leave that alone on health care. On the tax cut, they were going to run on that. Remember that? But all of a sudden, it blew the deficit to $700 billion. And what did McConnell say last week? Well, part of the reason our costs are going up is because these mandatory spending for entitlements are going out of control. So look at it, folks. Here comes cuts to Medicare.
The economy is booming.
Wait, I didn't cut you off, Jennifer. Here comes cuts to Medicare. Here comes raising your retirement age for Social Security. Watch out. That's your October surprise.
We are running on tax cuts. The economy is booming. I mean, seriously, people are happy with the direction that we're going in this country, and economically, things couldn't be better. That is because of Republican leadership.
Dr. Laura, I do happen to notice here as I watch all this unfold, it comes back to the thing that we've been talking about for a while. When you say it looks like you've got a Democrat running as a Republican, you have a Republican running as a Democrat.
I think it's the most exciting thing about the Senate race, quite frankly, is that partisanship doesn't matter in the same way it traditionally does. The ads that Donnelly has had, if you didn't know, you would think he was a Republican. He doesn't mention the word Democrat. At the same time, it's a really Republican state. And so as a Democrat, that's probably a smart strategy. I think if you look at Braun and Donnelly, partisanship isn't playing out the way it normally does, and that's one of the cool things about this race.
Donnelly says, I don't serve the Democrat Party, I serve the people of Indiana. It's hard to argue with that, isn't it?
That's his claim, but the majority of Hoosiers voted for Donald Trump by a margin of 19 points. They want to see a senator support the president's agenda, and Joe Donnelly is not doing that. When the votes really matter, he votes with Democrats, and that is why we have to remind Hoosiers that if you want to see this president be successful, if you want to see things like the tax cuts continue, then you have to vote for Mike Braun.
When it really matters, Joe Donnelly votes for Indiana. He's voted with Donald Trump lots of times on very, very key votes that matter.
When we don't need his vote.
And listen to this. You're exactly right, Dr. Laura. Now Mike Braun is running as the Democrat. He's talking about health care. That's supposed to be our issue. Now he's talking about it. So you're right. This is Etch-a-Sketch politics.
They're still polite yet. I know we're going to get into this a little even more pretty soon. But when we come back, Democrat Donnelly had a new television commercial that Jeff was talking about that caused quite a stir. We'll talk about that a little bit more when we come back.